Tenants in a Brooklyn apartment building have refused to pay rent and have been on a rent strike for the last year. Now, landlords have filed eviction against those tenants and say that eviction will actually help those tenants. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today. Once again, it's coming out of New York City. So, a landlord has filed an eviction and claims that it will actually help the tenants, the eviction being filed against them. And in this case, it actually will, because when an eviction is filed in New York, all of these tenant protections suddenly they start popping up. And you know what? The tenants suddenly are able to get a whole ton of help. But this whole incident was caused by these tenants not paying rent for the last year. Now they're claiming that, hey, the landlord hasn't been making necessary repairs, so they decided to withhold the rent. Now, my big issue with that is that, hey, landlords, we use the rent money to actually make the repair. So when you don't pay us rent, guess what? We're unable to make those repairs. Now, the landlord in this case is claiming that, hey, we did make repairs and we tried to make repairs inside your units, but you wouldn't give us access. Okay, so if you don't let the landlord in, the landlord can't come in and fix anything now, can they? And the only thing they're really doing is making a big fuss on, with the media and on TV, trying to make the landlord look bad when the landlord is doing everything right. Now, I don't know which one is true, right? But I tend to side with the landlord because, you know what? I don't think there's any reason why a landlord would want their building to be, old and dilapidated and falling apart, other than, and this is where my whole rant against rent control comes in, right? When a building is under rent control, you have a whole bunch of tenants paying way below the market rate for the rents, right? It doesn't make sense to do a lot of updates, renovations, spend a ton of money on capital expenditures. And not only does it not make sense, a lot of landlords just can't do it because they don't have enough income coming in to cover those costs. So now we're in this situation where these tenants are like, hey, my building is falling apart. It's in horrible disrepair. And in the meantime, they're like, well, but I don't want to pay one penny more on my rent. You know how stupid that sounds? So what a ridiculous situation this whole thing is. Now, before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you think that it's actually going to help a tenant to have an eviction filed against them in this case in New York City? Okay, now remember that when an eviction is filed, all of a sudden all of these different protections are going to come into play. They might be able to work out payment agreements, they might be able to work out repair agreements, etc., through the courts. And that's what the landlord is arguing when they say, hey, this eviction filing actually is going to help. And if these tenants don't play ball, maybe they will actually be evicted. The landlord will be able to take their property back and then do the necessary repairs after those tenants are gone. Either way, right? What we want is the scenario to be resolved. So let's get into this article because this is quite a unique situation here. This article is coming from patch.com and it says, eviction filings are to help tenants, says Crown Heights owner lawyer. A lawyer for two Crown Heights buildings where tenants are on strike says that eviction proceedings are to help tenants, not evict them. Yeah, well, you know what? In this case, it might actually be that these tenants are helped through this eviction filing. And regardless of if they're helped or not, the landlord's hands are tied. They have to file this eviction. Otherwise, they could be just, indefinitely paying for these people to stay in these units for free. So anyway, let's get into this article and see what it says. Tenants from two buildings managed by the same company demanded real repairs at a rally on Saturday. Residents from 1616 President Street and 575 Herkimer Street have been on strike for over a year, claiming that the management company has refused to perform repairs. No repairs, no rent, the crowd chanted. But the management company disagrees, claiming that they've performed dozens of repairs and renovations in the buildings, but tenants refused to grant them access and fought. Gilman Management told Patch in a statement that the owners of each property are happy to make repairs if access is provided and have no desire to evict the occupants, said lawyer David Graber. And I don't doubt for 1 second, they have no desire. They have no desire to evict these tenants. The thing is, the tenants need to pay the rent. They need to pay the money that's owed. Whether the repairs were done or not, these people have been staying in this building rent-free for the last year, which means they have accumulated a year worth of rent that is due, right? So you can't tell me that, oh, well, you know what, there was $5,000 worth of repairs that needed to be done in my apartment, but I didn't pay you $30,000 worth of rent. So that's an even exchange, right? No, only in these moronic tenants' minds is that an even exchange. And you know what? They're trying to get one over on these landlords. And I don't like it. I don't like it. And I'm going to call these people out for this garbage, right? They see that, hey, it is very difficult to get evicted. And if they team up and get together, maybe they'll be able to screw these landlords out of their money, because what these people really want is to pay nothing. They want to pay absolutely nothing. And they're going to bring up little, small, minor stuff. And then when the landlord comes by to fix it, they're not going to let the landlord in so that they can continue to complain. Well, you know what? I have a leaky toilet, but the landlord refuses to fix it. But every time the landlord comes by, you won't let the landlord in. You know how stupid that sounds to me? But that is exactly what these tenants are doing. They're scamming. Okay, they owe tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars. I don't know how many tenants in these two buildings aren't paying rent, but I'm sure it is a very significant amount of money. Okay, and these landlords are just losing money. So they had to file eviction against these tenants for a year worth of non-payment. And you know what? They have a good case, especially if they can prove that they made a good faith effort to make these repairs and the tenants wouldn't allow it. And that's what I would do. Everything would need to be documented. Remember, you're going to have to go through, the landlord's going to have to go through, make sure their lawyers have all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed, just to make sure that, hey, we are complying with the law. We're doing everything that, we need to be doing. And these tenants are still playing games. And that's what I believe truly is happening. But Burr records show, or I'm sure it means our records show, that at 575 Herkimer Street, Graber filed 5 non-payment eviction cases against residents this year who owe a combined $85,000 in back rent, Graber said. The courts, Graber said, is a preferred avenue to get repairs done for all properties involved rather than the press. And the eviction cases were initiated for the tenants' benefit by setting up payment agreements, Graber said. A stipulation can be entered into by which a payment agreement can be made and specific access dates can be agreed to, with a list of necessary repairs to be completed as part of the stipulation, Graber said. And yeah, that's what they need. They need a list of all the stuff that they claim is broken so that they can actually go in and do it. And they need permission through the courts to be able to get access to these units so they can make the repairs. Now, if the tenants don't comply with them coming into the units to make repairs, well, then hey, these tenants are scamming. Okay? If these tenants, they make a list of this stuff that needs to be repaired, and then right afterwards they're like, well, this is you didn't fix this over here. Well, you never said that was broken. Okay? That's what these tenants don't want to do, because simply put, you can tell just by the way that this is happening that, hey, these tenants are scamming. Okay? And I it's hard to blame them. Okay? When you're getting a year worth of free rent just by banding together with other tenants in your building, you're saving tens of thousands of dollars. If your rent is $1,000 a month, you save 12 grand in 1 year. But I bet their rent is a lot higher than that, because this is New York we're talking about. So we've got 5 tenants, and between those 5 tenants, they owe $85,000. That's a great deal of money. And I don't know if those are the only people who are not paying, the only people participating in the rent strike, or maybe they just owe the most out of everybody. The landlord does not want to evict these people and will be happy to assist them in getting assistance or allowing time for them to catch up paying the arrears over time, he told Patch. Tenant Jaron Forbes told the crowd that Gilman Management hasn't been entirely forthcoming with families that have lived here for 50 years by refusing to make repairs and only providing patchwork fixes when they do perform work. Yeah, so here's the thing, right? You say that they only provide a patchwork fix. Well, when you're talking about a rent controlled building, and I'm guessing, just guessing, that this is a rent controlled building, right? You are only going to get a patchwork fix. You're not going to get a beautiful new rehabbed unit with everything new and nice on the inside, because the landlord won't be able to make up for the extreme expense with higher rents. So they're going to duct tape stuff together. They're going to come in here and they're going to fix old stuff and just make it just so it's barely working and barely livable, just so it's up to code. And that's it. That's all you can expect. It's going to be obsolete. It's going to be breaking all the time. It's going to be disrepair. It's going to be inefficient, and that's what you get. This is the system that you asked for with your rent control. If you want something that's up to date, if you want something where that looks nice, that has all the amenities taken care of, then you're going to have to pay market rates for that. Okay, you're not going to be able to get that for whatever cheap rent that you agreed to with the rent control. Okay, so yeah, don't sit here and argue that hey, everybody needs rent control, but then at the same time demand that hey, well, they also need to be doing tens of thousands of dollars worth of repairs and maintenance. No, that's stupid. Forbes said apartments suffer from lack of maintenance, mold, and other issues. They are always here on the first of the month, Forbes said. But when it comes to making repairs, oh, we'll get back to you. She told the crowd that she finally got windows fixed in her apartment at 575 Herkimer Street after 20 years of fighting, something that only happened after going on rent strike, Forbes said. So if she got the windows fixed, why is she still not paying rent? Okay? If they came in and they fixed the stuff that you said was broken, why are you still not paying rent? You are cheating the landlord, and you deserve to be evicted if that's the case. It doesn't surprise me that these tenants are just complete scammers. They come in here and they say, "Oh well, this is broken, that's broken." You would, and you when you fixed it, you just fixed it cheaply and like, yeah. Well, you know what? I don't have time for this. You know what? It's a good thing that the people who are operating as landlords up in New York City, the majority of them, they know how the business operates. They know the things they need to do in order to make a profit because somebody like me, I would get destroyed because I don't know the laws like that. I don't have these huge emergency reserves to cover $85,000 in lost rent. Most people don't. So yeah, what a ridiculous story. And it just goes to show you that, hey, tenants are scamming all the time. Landlords are trying to do the best thing that they can to operate their business, and they still are getting screwed over.